All this time, you've been treating rejection like some divine judgment of your worth. Like her no, her cold shoulder, her silence is this irreversible confirmation that you're not enough. That something about you, your looks, your money, your confidence, came up short. And the crazy part? You believed it. You let one woman's indifference rewrite your self-perception. You let her, "I'm not feeling it," become your inner dialogue. You internalized a glitch in perception as gospel truth. But here's the real kicker. Rejection isn't even real. Not the way you think it is. Most guys go through life thinking they've been rejected, when in reality, they were just misread, misinterpreted, misaligned. You weren't rejected. You were redirected, misperceived, and more often than not, you never even had a chance to be actually seen, let alone rejected. That's what you're about to uncover. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to reclaim your sense of worth, power, and presence, no matter who walks away. Rejection feels like a knife because you made her perception your mirror. That's where it starts. Somewhere along the way, you gave women too much authority. You made them the judges of your confidence instead of the beneficiaries of it. You handed her your reflection and waited to be told whether it was good enough. And when she didn't validate it, when she ghosted, flaked, or said, "Let's just be friends," you took that silence and built an identity around it. But let me ask you this. When a blind man tells you you're ugly, does it sting? No, because you know he can't see. You don't take it personal. So why do you take it personal when a woman can't see your value? Why do you assume her lack of attraction is some universal truth? That's the delusion. You're not being rejected. You're being misunderstood by someone who isn't qualified to interpret you. That's not rejection. That's noise. I still remember sitting in a bar when it hit me. She had smiled from across the room, played with her hair, even made her way closer. So I approached, casual, confident, and within 30 seconds, she gave me the classic, "I have a boyfriend" line. Normally, that would have bruised me, but that night was different. I wasn't there to impress. I was there to express. I wasn't seeking her approval. I was observing her perception. And what I saw was clear. She wasn't rejecting me. She was reacting to a narrative in her head. Maybe I looked like her ex. Maybe my presence triggered her fear. Maybe she'd had a bad day. Who cares? That moment taught me something most men never realize. She's not responding to you. She's responding to her story about you. And stories aren't facts. They're filters. You don't change the story by proving yourself. You change the story by refusing to be defined by it.
Most guys chase clarity after rejection. You want to know what you did wrong, what you could have said differently. You want closure. But the truth is that hunger for answers is just disguised desperation. You're not chasing clarity, you're chasing control. You want to rewind the moment and rewrite the outcome so you can stop feeling powerless. But you don't need closure from her. You need exposure within you. You need to expose the part of you that still believes your worth is external. The part that thinks your masculinity is on trial every time a woman pulls away. That part of you needs to die. Because here's the real deal. When a man is rooted in who he is, rejection becomes irrelevant. Not because it stops happening, but because it stops mattering. Rejection only exists in a reality where you made her the prize, where your self-esteem hinges on her acceptance. Flip the frame. Imagine for a second that you're the rare one, the limited edition, the storm she's not ready for. In that frame, her no isn't rejection, it's misalignment. Like handing a steak to a vegan. No matter how perfectly cooked it is, she's not going to take it. But that doesn't mean the steak is bad. It just means she was never the right mouth. Let that sink in. She wasn't rejecting you, she was refusing what she couldn't digest. Some women just don't have the emotional teeth to chew on a real man's presence. That's not your problem. You want to know what's actually happening when she pulls away? She's not rejecting you, she's revealing herself, she's showing you her capacity. And when you're addicted to being liked, you miss that gift. You interpret her silence as an attack instead of a revelation. But once you shift into truth, you start seeing clearly. That flaky girl, she's not the villain, she's the mirror, the test, the spiritual checkpoint asking you, do you still need permission to be powerful? And when your answer becomes no, when you stop shrinking to fit her fantasy, that's when the entire game changes. there's this brutal, liberating truth most men never get to. If she truly saw you, if she actually perceived your core, your intention, your masculine essence, and still said no, then that would be rejection. But that's not what's happening. What you're experiencing is a glitch, a surface-level interaction, a clash of timing, mood, context, energy. Maybe your eye contact was too intense for her comfort. Maybe she sensed your confidence and labeled it arrogance because it scared her. Maybe you reminded her of the guy who broke her heart in high school and she couldn't separate memory from presence. Or maybe she just wasn't emotionally mature enough to hold space for the energy you brought. But all of that, that's not you. That's her. That's her perception, her fear, her filters. You're just the screen the movie is playing on, and if you keep taking the plot personally, you'll never realize you were never the character. The myth that women are crystal clear in their choices is one of the most damaging illusions we're sold. You're told, if she likes you, she'll make it obvious. False. Attraction is rarely clean. It's messy, conflicted, emotional, unconscious. Half the time, she doesn't even know why she's into one guy and not another. She might say you're too intense, when what she really means is she feels unsteady around you, and she doesn't know how to hold her ground in your presence. But she won't tell you that. She can't. Because even she doesn't fully understand it. So she rejects you, not because she doesn't want you, but because she doesn't know how to want you. That's not rejection. That's emotional immaturity camouflaged as preference. And if you knew that, truly knew it in your bones, you'd never take her no as gospel again. When you walk into a room, you carry an energy, a frequency, a presence. Some people will feel it like gravity, others will be repelled by it. That's the nature of polarity. Masculine energy unsettles people who live in uncertainty. You show up clear, composed, and non-needy, and it disrupts the social order. It makes people question their own sense of self. And when someone is addicted to comfort, to surface-level ease, they'll call your presence intimidating, overbearing, too much. And if you believe them, if you start shrinking yourself to be more digestible, you'll destroy your own magnetism. That's the trap. You think the answer is to be more likable, more pleasing, more chill. But the truth is, the moment you start modifying your essence for approval, you become invisible. You go from the storm to the breeze, from power to politeness. And no woman obsesses over a man she can't feel. Let's talk about those moments that haunt you. The times you texted and got no reply, the dates that went well and then went nowhere, the smiles that faded into silence. Those weren't rejections, those were redirections, divine ones even. You were being spared, protected, cleared out. And yes, I know how cliche that sounds, but it's only a cliche because people say it without living it, without embodying the truth behind it. When you realize how many bullets you've dodged by not being chosen, you start to walk with a different posture, a calm authority. You stop chasing and start choosing. You start screening, filtering, observing, and suddenly what used to feel like rejection now feels like refinement. You ever notice how the most grounded men rarely complain about being rejected? It's not because they're more attractive. It's not because they get every woman they want. It's because they've transcended the game. They know that rejection only bites if you're still trying to win her. But when you are the win, the whole equation changes. You're not chasing validation. You are the validation. You're not competing for her attention. You're assessing her alignment. That shift, that's the entire game. When you realize rejection isn't even about you, you stop playing defense. You stop trying to impress. You start standing. Because here's the real test. Can you be completely yourself, in full masculine energy, with zero compromise, and still walk away when it's not reciprocated? That's when you know you've stopped fearing rejection. That's when the illusion collapses. When you can look her in the eye, feel her pull away, and still say to yourself, I am whole. Not bitter, not angry, just grounded, just awake. That's the moment she starts wondering what she missed. Because now you're the one who didn't flinch. Now you're the one she couldn't shake. And no matter how much she pretends she's unbothered, something in her soul registers your presence. And that imprint, that's what stays. Not because you chased, not because you begged, but because you were unmoved. The irony is brutal. The less you need her to choose you, the more magnetic you become. Not because you're playing games or faking indifference, but because you've severed the emotional umbilical cord between her approval and your identity. That's rare, that's dangerous, that's attractive. Most men operate from a place of subconscious begging. Like me, please like me. It's not always verbal. It shows up in the pauses, in the over-explaining, in the micro-adjustments to tone, posture, opinions. That nervous need to maintain her comfort so she doesn't walk away. But a woman doesn't crave comfort, not from a man. She craves certainty. And every time you twist yourself to fit her, you become a maybe. Maybe this, maybe that, maybe enough. But certainty? That only lives in men who would rather lose her than lose themselves. Let's go deeper. What you've been calling rejection is actually ego death, and that's why it hurts so much. You built a version of yourself that she didn't choose. And instead of realizing that version wasn't you, you started believing it was all you had. So her dismissal felt like annihilation. But what if that version was never the real you? What if the version she met was just your audition tape, the filtered, performative, emotionally curated mask? If that's what got rejected, then good. That mask needed to die. That character needed to be buried, so the real you could finally show up. The one who doesn't flinch, doesn't bend, doesn't negotiate his value in exchange for affection. See, every no is a portal. Every ignored message, every cold glance, every "I'm just not ready for something serious right now." That's all sacred fire. It's not punishment, it's purification. It's life testing you. Can you handle being unseen without collapsing? Most men can't. Most men fall apart when they're not praised, not wanted, not chosen. They spiral, they start questioning everything. But the grounded man, he doesn't spiral. He sharpens. He leans deeper into his mission. He alchemizes rejection into fuel. He doesn't beg for doors to open. He builds his own kingdom and lets her figure out if she even deserves an invite. Now let's flip the frame again. When you stop chasing, she starts wondering. That's how it works. The moment you stop orbiting her world and return to your own gravity, she feels it. Even if she never texts you again, even if she moves on, she feels it. That silence you give her, that's louder than any paragraph you could have sent. That detachment, that's a mirror she wasn't ready for. It shows her that her pull isn't enough to shake your core, that your sense of self isn't up for negotiation. And women don't forget that. Maybe she doesn't come back. Maybe she does. Doesn't matter. You didn't shift for her. You held for you. Let's talk about obsession. You want a woman obsessed? Stop trying to be liked. Start being felt. You don't make her obsessed by texting her jokes, validating her stories, or sending flowers on Tuesday. You make her obsessed by standing in a level of grounded, unapologetic masculinity that doesn't need her, but could choose her. That tension is electric. That polarity creates gravity. And the paradox, the less emotionally attached you are to her reaction, the more impact you have on it. Because now she's the one feeling unsteady. She's the one feeling the lack. She's the one thinking about you, not the you that begged, but the you that didn't blink. But if you're still operating from emotional poverty, you won't be able to hold that frame. You'll collapse the second she pulls away. You'll tell yourself it was your fault. You'll spiral into self-doubt. Why? Because you haven't grieved the identity you built around being chosen. That identity needs to die. Right here, right now. Because the man who fears rejection is a slave to approval, a slave to feminine emotion, a slave to external cues. But the man who laughs at rejection, he's untouchable, he's dangerous. Not because he's mean, but because he's free. You have to understand this. Women don't respect men who flinch. Not because they're cruel, not because they're heartless, but because at their core, women are biologically wired to test for strength. Emotional, psychological, spiritual. And every rejection is actually a test, a subconscious probe. She's asking, can he hold the tension? Can he stay rooted when I pull away? Will he chase me like every other man? Or will he stand so firm I start questioning why I ever stepped back? That's the test. And most men fail it before it even begins. The moment she goes cold, they go desperate. The moment she says she's not feeling it, they try to explain, to fix, to adjust. You can't negotiate desire. You either evoke it or you don't. And if you do, her pulling away isn't a no, it's a check. She's checking to see if what she felt was real or if it was just another mask. But you've been trained to take that test as defeat. You feel her slip and assume the game's over. You didn't lose her, you lost your frame. That's the real loss. And until you reclaim that frame, until you can look her distance in the eye without twitching, you'll keep reliving the same cycle. Woman after woman, moment after moment. Each rejection cutting a little deeper, because deep down, you still think her attention equals your worth. That's the virus, that's the lie, and you have to kill it, not suppress it, not reframe it, kill it, burn it at the root. So how do you do that? How do you become rejection-proof without turning bitter? It starts with understanding this one truth. Being chosen is a byproduct of being full. You don't seek her because you're empty. You invite her because you're overflowing. When your mission is rich, when your identity is rooted, when your time is valuable, rejection feels like a scheduling conflict, not a personal insult. You start to see women as mirrors, not mothers, as invitations, not validations. She can add, she cannot define. And when you live from that truth, rejection loses its teeth. She walks away, you nod. She says she's confused, you bless her. She ghosts you, you keep building. No collapse, no spiral, just forward. There's a moment in every man's life where he either becomes the observer or remains the beggar. The beggar waits for attention, scraps, mercy. He refreshes her stories, analyzes her texts, rereads the conversation, wondering where it went wrong. The observer, he doesn't just see the moment, he sees the pattern. He steps back, sees that her withdrawal isn't personal, it's predictable. It's part of the feminine dance, the inhale and the exhale. And instead of chasing her next breath, he returns to his stillness. That's when the power flips, because now you're the constant, and she's the one chasing stability. And don't get it twisted, this isn't about becoming cold. This isn't about numbing out or pretending you don't care. This is about care without collapse, presence without performance, love without losing your spine. You can still be warm, you can still feel, but you do it from the throne, not the floor. You do it with your crown on, not your knees scraped from begging. That's the polarity she craves. That's what actually makes a woman obsessed. Not your words, not your charm, not your gifts, your unshakability. The sense that no matter what she does, who she chooses, or where she runs, you remain. Not waiting, not hoping. Remaining because when a woman feels that, truly feels it, it triggers something ancient in her. A knowing, a pull, a curiosity. Why didn't he chase me? Why is he still calm? Why is he not trying to prove anything? And once she starts asking those questions, you're already imprinted. You didn't win her with effort. You won her with absence of need. That's the paradox. The man who can walk away with peace is the one she wants to chase. Not because he played her, but because he's the first man who didn't betray himself to keep her. You've been taught to view rejection as a finish line, like that moment she pulls away is the end of the road, the final verdict. But rejection isn't a verdict, it's a filter. It shows you who she is. It shows you where you are. It shows you what you still believe about your value. Every no is a flashlight into your psyche. Do you collapse? Do you obsess? Do you spiral? Or do you hold? Do you stay rooted? Do you double down on your purpose with surgical focus while the world tries to rattle your self-worth? Because that's what makes a man. Not how many yeses he gets, but how few rejections can touch him. And here's the part most men never realize. Your reaction to rejection becomes your reputation. Every time you chase after being dismissed, every time you lash out, explain, over-apologize, defend, beg, you're imprinting weakness. She may not consciously clock it, but deep down, she's already filed you under not him. Because women remember energy more than words. They remember how a man held himself when the moment went cold. That memory, that imprint, sticks deeper than any pickup line or compliment. And if that imprint is calm, strong, undisturbed, you become unforgettable. Not because she liked you, but because she felt you. The most attractive men in the world aren't always the best looking or richest. They're the ones who are the hardest to emotionally destabilize. They don't flinch when she withdraws. They don't chase when she goes quiet. They don't break character to convince her of anything. Why? Because they've done the inner work. They've bled, they've been broken. They've watched women leave and didn't let that tear down their temple. They rebuilt it, brick by brick, in silence. And now they carry themselves like men who need nothing from anyone, but could give everything to the right one. This is the level you rise to, where her disinterest is not a crisis, it's data. Where her disinterest is not a crisis, it's data. Where you don't beg for validation, you offer opportunity. Where rejection doesn't sting because your worth isn't up for negotiation. You're not auditioning for love, you're living as love. You're not chasing feminine approval. You're embodying masculine truth. In that state, you attract, not by pursuit, but by presence. You attract, not by pursuit, but by presence. You become the man who leaves echoes, not because you yelled, but because you stood tall in the silence and let her realize what she just walked away from. And maybe she never circles back, maybe she never texts again. Doesn't matter, because the point was never to win her. The point was to win you. To reclaim the part of yourself you lost the moment you gave her the authority to define you. And now you don't need closure, you are the closure. Now you don't need permission, you are the permission. That's when rejection stops being pain and starts becoming fuel. Because here's the final truth no one told you. Rejection isn't something that happens to you. It's something you agree to feel. And when you stop agreeing, when you stop tying your worth to her yes or her no, you become untouchable. Not hard, not cold, just clear. And in that clarity, you no longer chase being chosen, you choose. You don't get peace from chasing her. You get peace from becoming a man who no longer needs to.